So for this assignment, I chose to focus on the cervical cancer screening process in Haiti. My two goals were to increase HPV vaccination coverage by 20% over the next 2 years in children aging from 9 to 15. My second goal was to improve screening participation and access by 25% over the next 2 years from women between the ages of 21 and 65. I basically chose Haiti because it's kind of well known as one of the poorest countries, if not the poorest country in the world. You know, problems just stemming from like natural disasters, like government instability, political conflicts, and kind of just like an overwhelming amount of debt that has been like amassed over the last few decades. For my two components of like community statistics, I chose like incidence rate and mortality rate. So according to Population Reference Bureau, Haiti has the highest incidence rate of cervical cancer with 91 cases for every 100,000 women. And Haitian women also develop cervical cancer younger than anyone else, and they die younger than anyone else. For my targeted population characteristics, I said that the population at risk is Haitian women aging from 16 and up can be at risk for developing cervical cancer. Sexually transmitted HPV is the initiator of cervical cancer. The median age for the first sexual encounter in Haiti is 18 years old. So given that the median is 18, we can assume that 16 would be the youngest. So different strains of HPV are what cause cervical cancer. The two most infectious strains are number 16 and number 18, which they account for 2/3 of the world's cervical cancer. You know, since there are no screening tools put in place, the implementation of a plan would be ideal and would essentially be easier. Tying the last bullet point into this one, which is include current rates of screening factors that would impact the need for screening. According to HPVcenter.net, there are no HPV vaccination programs available in Haiti. The site's estimated screening coverage from women between the ages of 25 and 65 is at 9% for being screened in their whole lifespan, and the coverage of women between the ages of 30 and 49 is 10%. Within the last 3 years, both of those group percentages have dropped to 4 and 5%. So depict the community setting and include reasoning and explanation for setting selection. I said that since Haiti is a resource poor country, using the community's like settings to target this population's affected group seems the most ideal. Community locations like schools, markets, health clinics, and churches, really just familiar places that are often visited and information can be sought out in plain sight. You can also take into account that screening and vaccination information can be relayed through trusted figureheads in the community and kind of like reinforces the concept of taking advantage of like the resources being offered. Campaign information being verbally passed down can also relieve some of the hesitancy and like the stigma around screening and vaccinations. So how my theory or like conceptual model would be applied to this campaign would be that people within this community, you know, would see information about like vaccinations and like cervical screening resources posted in common locations of their community. Community leaders would be like secondhand reinforcers of like resources available and the information that entails it. HPV vaccinations would be offered through school programs and community health clinics. Cervical screenings would be made available through the use of mobile clinics, transportation, vouchers, and low-cost exams and screenings. Offering these health-based resources to a community that has like a history of like stigma and trust issues with receiving vaccines and procedures like pelvic exams won't like relinquish their doubts about them, but with the reinforcements from like healthcare providers and authority figures throughout the community, hopefully these resources will be used to their potential. So now I'm gonna focus on my plan, like my strategy, my measurement, and my follow-up and referral of my two goals. So once again, my first goal was increase HPV coverage by 20% over the next 2 years in children from the ages of 9 to 15. My strategy would be to implement comprehensive vaccination campaigns targeting parents, guardians, healthcare providers, and schools to raise awareness about the importance of HPV vaccination and preventing cervical cancer. I would increase like accessibility to HPV vaccines through school-based vaccination programs, community clinics, healthcare provider offices, and really like addressing vaccination barriers, including like costs, misinformation, and like vaccine hesitancy by providing like accurate information and offering like financial assistance like where needed. Access to HPV vaccinations would be limitless. For measurement purposes, I said that we should monitor like the percentage of children from the ages of 9 to 15 who have completed the HPV vaccination series and compare it to the data of unvaccinated children within that age group. For unvaccinated children, for a follow-up procedure, would be HPV tested after completing the entire vaccination series. For young girls, depending on the age, I would recommend starting cervical screenings based on the country's HPV and cervical cancer statistics. Vaccinations and screenings like serve as a prevention tool, so it's never too early to start preventative measures. For my second goal, I said that I would like to improve screening participation and access by 25% over the next 2 years from women between the ages of 21 and 65. For my strategy, I said that we should launch outreach programs that are targeted to educate women about the importance of like regular cervical cancer screenings, really emphasize the benefits of early detection and treatment, collaborate with healthcare providers, community organizations, and public health agencies to offer convenient and culturally sensitive screening services, including like mobile clinics, health fairs in community settings, workplace wellness programs, and really just addressing like the barriers to screening, such as like lack of insurance coverage, transportation issues, and like an overall fear of stigma associated with public exams in that culture. By like providing financial assistance, transportation access, and patient like navigation services, and really just like having an overall goal of educating the population at risk without shaming them for their lack of education and hesitancy of like medicinal techniques. For measurement, I chose to track the percentage of eligible women who have undergone cervical cancer screening, such as like cryotherapy and vinegar testing, since they don't conduct pap smears in that part of the world. And I would compare the campaign data within the guidelines to the baseline data of women who have not undergone screening. For my follow-up and referral, I said that for women with cervical cancer, the follow-up plan would be to receive treatment if eligible, but mainly focusing on getting screened consistently to check for progressions or regressions of cancer. For women without cervical cancer, the goal remains the same, just being consistently screened for cancer and overall health. And for the referral purposes, I thought that like family trees or hereditary testing should be done just to see if cervical cancer is hereditary. Instead of being screened like annually, I would suggest that those that have the gene for cervical cancer should be screened 2 or 3 times a year, just to keep things under control and just to have things as a preventative measure. So yeah.